Have you ever stopped to think, like, where does your local coffee shop actually get its beans? Or maybe how government agencies buy everything from, I don't know, paper clips to fighter jets?
Yeah, it's this massive world of purchasing. Most of us just never really see it in action.
Exactly. Well, welcome to our deep dive into this often invisible world of business markets and how organizations make buying decisions.
Our mission today really is to pull back that curtain. We want to show you how these different business markets work, what, drives their
And
choices.
how technology is shaking things up. Hopefully you'll walk away with a kind of shortcut to understanding the forces behind almost every product and service around you.
Yeah, and our insights today, they come from digging into business markets and buying behavior, which is a key chapter in a top marketing textbook, plus all the related materials.
We've gone through all the details, the examples, even the discussion questions to sort of distill the key takeaways for you.
Right, ready to jump in?
Let's do it. Okay, let's unpack this first bit. When we talk about business markets or B2B, it's easy to just picture like big companies selling to other big companies. But it sounds like it's way more diverse than that. Knowing the different types seems pretty crucial.
It really is. And what's fascinating, I think, is that while, yeah, the basic marketing ideas apply, the actual structure and the behavior in B2B markets are really distinct.
How so?
Well, you have to understand how a product doesn't just get bought once. It often ripples through a whole channel, a whole value chain.
Okay.
So at its core, a business market is just, individuals, organizations, groups buying products for a specific reason that isn't personal consumption.
Right, like reselling it or using it to make something else, or just for their daily operations.
Exactly. It's all about the purpose of the purchase.
Got it. So what are the main categories here? What defines this B2B world?
Okay, the first big one is producer markets. These are basically companies and individuals buying products to make a profit by using them to produce other products or using them in their operations.
So like manufacturers, agriculture.
Yep, exactly. Agriculture, forestry, mining, construction, manufacturing, transport, utilities. Think about a giant company like Cargill.
Not a household name for most people.
Yeah. But they're huge. They supply ingredients, corn syrup, flour, you name it, for tons of food products you eat every day. They're a massive player in the producer market.
Wow. So the strategy there is more about long-term supply, consistency, that kind of thing.
Definitely. It's often about partnerships, making sure the supply chain is solid, getting those critical inputs reliably. It's usually way beyond just a one-off sale.
Okay, that makes sense. A huge hidden layer. What's the next type?
Next up are reseller markets. These are intermediaries. Think wholesalers, retailers.
The ones who buy finished goods and just sell them on.
Pretty much. They buy finished products and resell them for profit, usually without changing them much physically.
So what are they thinking about when they buy?
It's a real calculation for them. They're looking at, okay, what's the likely customer demand? How much space do I actually have? Can the supplier reliably give me enough product?
Right.
And also, how easy is it to order? Do they offer any help? Does this new product fit with what I already sell, or does it compete?
So they're managing their whole inventory mix, like Sears used to do back in the day.
Exactly like that. Sears was a classic example of a huge reseller navigating all those factors.
Okay, so we've got producers, resellers. What about the public sector? Governments must be massive buyers.
Oh, absolutely massive. That's the third type, government markets. This is everything from federal, state, county, local governments.
Buying stuff for themselves
Yeah.
and for providing services.
Correct. Buying for their own internal operations and also to provide products and services to, us, the constituents.
And I bet their buying process is different.
Very different, often much more complex. Because of public accountability, transparency requirements, things are usually done through formal bids.
Or negotiations for really complex stuff.
Right, especially for big ticket items or complex services. And the sheer variety of what they buy is incredible. Food, clothes, office supplies, but also aircraft parts, construction, training. Their purchasing power is just immense, but it's highly regulated.
Okay. And the last category, it's not profit-driven, you said.
Right. That brings us to institutional markets. These are organizations with goals that aren't primarily business-related. Think charitable, educational, community-focused.
Like churches, colleges, hospitals.
Exactly. Hospitals, universities like Dartmouth College, civic clubs, charities. The key thing for marketers here is that these institutions often have very different goals.
And maybe fewer resources.
Often, yes. Fewer resources, different priorities. So marketing to them needs a specialized approach. It's often about demonstrating value, aligning with their mission, providing support, maybe not just focusing purely on the lowest cost.
So even if, you listening aren't directly involved in B2B marketing, just understanding these 4 types, producer, reseller, government, institutional, superproduction, it really helps you see this vast interconnected network behind everything we use.
It gives you that framework. Yeah, you start to see how it all connects.
Okay, so we have these broad market types. But if you're a business selling into this world, how do you figure out who specifically to target? I mean, it sounds enormous.
Yeah, that's a really important question. How do marketers actually identify and then, assess potential business customers? This is where a standardized system is just invaluable.
Okay.
We're talking about NAICS, the North American Industry Classification System.
NAICS. Right, I've heard of that. It's like a standard code for different industries across the U.S., Canada, Mexico.
Okay, it's a uniform system designed specifically so those 3 countries can generate comparable stats. It's based on what businesses do their production activities.
And it's similar to international systems.
Yeah, it has similarities to the ISIC system used elsewhere. NAICS is pretty detailed, though. It breaks down all industrial activity into 20 main sectors and then drills down into something like 11,170 specific industry classifications.
Oh, wow, that's specific.
It is. It gives a lot more detail, especially for service industries and high-tech sectors compared to older systems.
So how does a business actually use this? Beyond just, knowing the code for their industry, what's the strategic angle?
Well, its real power is in helping businesses find and understand potential customers. Marketers use it to identify and locate organizations. They might use directories like Standard & Poor's Register or databases like Dun & Bradstreet.
Which list companies by their NAICS code.
Exactly. So you can create really targeted lists or say all the companies in this specific manufacturing niche within this geographic area.
Okay, that makes sense for finding them.
Yeah.
But you mentioned assessing potential too.
Right. This is where it gets clever. You can try to estimate purchase potential. If you know how much your current customers in a certain NAICS category buy, and you know things like their number of employees, you can look at new companies in the same NAICS category, find out their number of employees, and make an educated guess about how much they might potentially buy. It helps prioritize sales efforts.
That's pretty powerful. A structured way to size up opportunities. Can you give an example with, a company we'd know?
Sure. Think about, say, AT&T. Under NAICS, they're in Sector 51, which is information. Then, more specifically, telecommunications.
Yep.
Or Apple. They'd be under manufacturing. And then, more specifically, computer and electronic product manufacturing. These codes help businesses not just understand themselves, but find suppliers, partners, or customers doing related things.
So it's a common language for analyzing the market. And really, this isn't just for big marketing departments. If you're ever researching an industry, maybe looking for business opportunities, or just trying to understand a supply chain, NAICS is a great tool to quickly get a handle on who does what.
Definitely a useful starting point.
So we've got the types of markets and a way to classify who's in them. But how does the actual process of buying and selling work in B2B? It must be pretty different from, me buying a new shirt online.
Oh, fundamentally different. If you think about the big picture, business customers tend to be way more rational, much more informed in their buying.
Makes sense. They've got more on the line.
Exactly. They need detailed information. They need to make sure a product meets very precise organizational needs. It's tied to operations, costs, strategy, not just liking the color.
Let's talk about the transactions themselves. I'm guessing they're bigger.
Much, much bigger, usually. Orders can be huge compared to consumer sales. Suppliers often need to sell in large quantities just to make it profitable.
And the items themselves can be expensive.
Absolutely. Think big computer systems, specialized machinery, or just massive ongoing orders for raw materials.
Which probably means negotiations take longer.
Definitely. It can take a lot of marketing time, a lot of selling effort. You're often dealing with multiple people, different departments. It can be a long process.
Okay. And you mentioned something called reciprocity. What's that?
Yeah. Reciprocity is kind of a unique B2B practice. It's basically where 2 organizations agree to buy from each other. I'll buy your widgets if you buy my gadgets.
Is that common?
It happens, but it's somewhat limited. It can raise red flags around competition, so it's usually only done when it doesn't threaten fair market practices.
Got it. So beyond the size and complexity, what are the absolute core concerns for these business buyers? What do they care most about?
Well, Price is obviously huge. It directly hits their operating costs, their cost of goods sold, profit margins, how competitive they can be.
But it's not always about the lowest price, right?
Exactly right. Sometimes a higher price is totally justifiable if the product leads to lower operating costs down the road, maybe because it's higher quality or comes with better service. Value matters.
Okay, and quality itself.
Paramount. Product quality is critical. Products usually have to meet really precise product specifications. These are often written documents detailing exactly what's needed, characteristics, standards.
So no wiggle room there.
Very little. And strategically, businesses also try to avoid over-specifying things because that can just drive up costs unnecessarily.
Makes sense. What about service? How important is that?
Hugely important. Service is highly valued. Business customers want things like good market information from suppliers, help with inventory management, reliable on-time delivery, good repair services.
Consistency is key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The quality and, crucially, the uniformity of service really builds loyalty. And increasingly, you're seeing ethics and social responsibility become major factors.
Like sustainability.
Sustainability is a big one, yeah.
Yeah.
Businesses are realizing that improving environmental performance can actually boost their financial performance indirectly, enhance their brand.
Right. And you also mentioned the cost of the relationship itself.
Yes, businesses are also very conscious of the cost of developing and maintaining supplier relationships. It's seen as an investment, not just a transaction cost. Finding, vetting, and managing suppliers takes time and resources.
Okay, that's a lot they're juggling.
Yeah.
How do they actually do the buying? Are there standard methods?
Yeah, there are generally 4 common methods used. First is description. This works for standardized products where the specs are well understood. Think specific grades of grain, basic office pens, eggs. You buy based on a written description.
Okay.
Then there's inspection. This is needed for unique items or things that vary in condition. Used vehicles, maybe a specific building for office space, complex used machinery. You need to actually look at it.
Makes sense.
Third is sampling. This is used when one item is assumed to represent a whole batch, like testing a sample of grain from a silo or oranges from a shipment.
Right.
And finally, negotiation. This is really common for big one-time projects or very expensive, complex items. Think custom machinery, large construction projects, maybe even negotiating a lease for major office space. Sellers often submit bids, and there's a lot of back and forth on terms.
So the method depends on the product, basically.
Exactly. And the type of purchase also influences how they approach it.
Okay, what are the main types of purchases?
There are 3 main ones. First is a new task purchase. This is when a company buys something for the very first time to solve a new problem or do a new job.
So they need a lot of information.
A ton of information. They're evaluating everything from scratch. A good example might be a retailer deciding to adopt, say, Apple Pay for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Big decision, lots of research.
Okay, what's the opposite of that?
That would be a straight rebuy purchase. This is totally routine.
Yeah.
Buying the same products, usually from the same suppliers, minimal information needed. Think reordering standard office supplies like pens and paper.
Often automated, I bet.
Very often, yeah. Marketers use automated systems to make this easy for buyers.
And the third type? Somewhere in the middle.
Exactly. It's called a modified rebuy purchase. This happens when, say, a company changes a new task purchase on subsequent orders, or they change the requirements for a straight rebuy.
Like they want faster delivery, or a lower price, or slightly different specs.
Precisely. Maybe they're looking for better terms or a different quality level. This type of purchase actually creates an opportunity for other suppliers to jump in and compete, even against established vendors.
It's almost like buying your first car is a new task purchase. Getting the oil change at the same dealership every time is a straight rebuy.
Good analogy.
But then, if you need a major repair and decide to shop around for a different mechanic or a specific aftermarket part, that's like a modified rebuy.
That's a perfect way to think about it. The underlying decision process has similar patterns, just on a much bigger scale for businesses.
Okay, that clarifies the purchase types. Now, what about demand? You mentioned B2B demand is different.
Very different. There are a few key concepts here. First is derived demand. This is fundamental. Demand for business products comes from or is derived from the demand for consumer goods.
So if consumers buy more computers,
Then companies like Intel see higher demand for their computer chips. The business demand depends on the end consumer.
right, which means B2B sellers have to watch consumer trends closely.
Absolutely. Then there's inelastic demand. This means demand for a business product doesn't change much, even if the price changes significantly.
How did that work?
It's often true for component parts that are only a small fraction of the final product's cost. For example, if the price of windshield wipers goes up a bit, RV manufacturers probably aren't going to make fewer RVs because of it. The wipers are a tiny part of the overall cost.
So they absorb the cost or
Yeah.
pass it on. They still need the part.
Usually, yeah. They have less flexibility to just stop buying based on price alone for certain components.
Interesting. What else?
There's joint demand. This happens when two or more items are used together to make a final product. Demand for them is linked.
Like hamburger buns and hamburger patties.
Perfect example. If demand for burgers goes up, demand for both patties and buns goes up together. You can't sell one without the other.
Got it. And the last one, fluctuating demand.
Yeah, fluctuating demand. Because business demand is derived from consumer demand, sometimes small changes in consumer demand can cause huge swings in business demand.
How come?
Think about inventory. If a retailer expects slightly lower consumer sales, they might drastically cut their orders to avoid getting stuck with stock. Or think about seasonal things like snow tires. Demand fluctuates wildly based on the season, which is driven by expected consumer need.
Wow. Okay. So B2B demand is interconnected, less sensitive to price for some things, linked for others, and can swing wildly. Definitely complex.
It keeps B2B marketers on their toes.
I bet. Now, this whole buying process, especially for new task or modified rebuy purchases, it sounds like it involves a lot of people. Who's actually making these calls?
Ah, yes. That brings us to the buying center. It's rarely just one person calling the shots.
A committee.
Not necessarily a formal committee, though it can be. It's more like a dynamic group of people within the organization who all play a role in the purchase decision. The specific people involved can change depending on what's being bought.
Okay, so what are the typical roles within this buying center?
There are usually 5 key roles identified. First, you have the users. These are the people who will actually use the product or service. Think employees using new software or engineers working with new components.
Their input must be important for usability.
Crucial. Then you have influencers. These are often technical people like engineers or IT specialists who help define the specifications and evaluate the technical merits of different options.
They provide the expertise.
Exactly. Third are the buyers. These are the people with the formal authority to select the supplier and negotiate the purchase terms, often people in the procurement or purchasing department.
The ones who handle the paperwork and negotiation.
Right. Fourth are the deciders. These are the people who actually have the power to make the final choice. Sometimes it's the buyer, but often it's someone higher up, like a department head or even a C-level executive for major purchases.
They give the final yes or no.
Precisely. And finally, there are the gatekeepers. These individuals control the flow of information to the buying center.
Like assistants.
Hmm.
Or maybe tech staff who filter vendor calls.
Could be either. Administrative assistants managing schedules, receptionists screening calls, technical staff filtering information, anyone who influences what information reaches the other members.
So the makeup of this group depends on the company and the purchase.
Absolutely. It depends on the organization's size, its structure, the type of purchase, managerial philosophy. It's very fluid.
It's kind of like, think about buying a new game console for the family. Your kid is the user. Maybe a tech-savvy friend is the influencer giving advice. You might be the buyer, finding the best deal. Maybe your spouse is the decider, giving the final okay. And, I don't know, maybe the internet filter is the gatekeeper if it blocks sites that are too expensive.
Huh. That's actually a really good analogy. It shows how multiple roles interact, even in simpler decisions. Businesses just do it on a more formal, complex scale.
So what are the actual stages this buying center typically goes through? Is it a defined process?
Generally, yes. There's a recognizable flow, usually involving 5 stages. Stage 1 is problem recognition. Someone, or maybe a group, identifies a need or a problem that could be solved with a purchase.
A trigger.
Exactly. Stage 2 is developing product specifications. The buying center gets involved here, assesses the need, and figures out exactly what characteristics the product or service needs to have.
Getting precise about the requirements.
Right. Stage 3 is searching for and evaluating potential products and suppliers. They start looking around. This is where things like value analysis come in, looking closely at components, materials, designed to see if costs can be reduced without sacrificing quality.
And evaluating the suppliers themselves.
Yes, that's vendor analysis, assessing potential suppliers based on price, quality, delivery, service, reliability, all those factors we talked about earlier.
Okay, they've done their homework. What's next?
Stage 4. Selection and order. This is where they choose the specific product and the supplier, and they make that strategic choice we mentioned. Multiple sourcing versus sole sourcing.
Using several suppliers versus just one.
Right. Multiple sourcing spreads risk and encourages competition. Sole sourcing is usually only done if there's really only one capable supplier, maybe due to patents or unique expertise. It carries more risk if that supplier has problems.
Makes sense. And the final stage.
Stage 5, performance evaluation. After the purchase, they assess how well the product met the specifications and how well the supplier performed. Did they deliver on time? Was the quality right? This feedback is critical for future decisions and supplier relationships.
A continuous loop, really.
Exactly. It informs the next buying cycle.
Now, what else influences this whole process? It can't just happen in a vacuum.
No, definitely not. There are broad environmental factors. Think about the competitive situation, the economy, political climate, laws and regulations, new technologies, even sociocultural trends.
Like you mentioned McDonald's considering Apple Pay, they'd look at competitors, tech changes, maybe even consumer privacy concerns.
Precisely. All those external forces play a role. Then there are organizational factors, the company's own objectives, its specific purchasing policies, its resources, the structure of its buying center.
So if a company like Salesforce is selling big systems, they target CEOs, partly because CEOs control resources and set objectives.
That's a great example of targeting based on organizational factors and influence.
What about the people involved?
Huge influence. Interpersonal factors, relationships within the buying center are key. Is there trust? Who has more influence? How well do they communicate? Office politics can absolutely play a role.
Yeah.
And finally, individual factors. The personal characteristics of each person in the buying center matter: their age, education, job tenure, personality, their attitude towards risk. This is where personal selling becomes really important for building trust and understanding individual motivations.
Wow. The complex web of influences: external, internal, group dynamics, and individual personalities.
It really is. No two buying situations are ever exactly the same.
Okay, we can't talk about business today without talking about technology. It's obviously changed consumer marketing massively. How has it impacted this strategic world of B2B buying?
The impact has been absolutely profound. The internet especially has fundamentally shifted the balance of information and the whole process.
How so? More information available to buyers.
Massively more. Today, business buyers almost always start their research online. They're looking for solutions, talking to peers in forums, reading blogs, watching videos, comparing specs, finding reviews, all before they might even talk to a salesperson.
So sales reps get involved much later in the game.
Often, yes. The buyer comes to the conversation much more educated than they used to be.
And I imagine it makes things more efficient.
Definitely. Online marketing saves a huge amount of time and reduces costs for both the buyers and the sellers. Information discovery is faster, communication can be quicker.
And this has led to actual B2B e-commerce sites.
Yeah.
Like online marketplaces.
Yes, absolutely. There are robust B2B e-commerce platforms now. Some are independent sites, kind of neutral third parties that charge fees to connect buyers and sellers from all over.
Like a global trading floor online?
Sort of, yeah. And then you have private B2B exchanges. These are usually more secure systems set up by companies or groups of companies to connect their members.
Maybe companies that share a supply chain or have complex dealings?
Exactly. They allow for a deeper sharing of information, sometimes integrating supply chains, managing complex customer relationships together. It's much more integrated.
And are things like online auctions used too?
Yes, businesses definitely use online auctions as well, both to sell surplus items and to find and bid on products they need. It can be a very efficient way to establish a market price.
So really, just like we research big personal purchases online, businesses are doing the exact same thing, but for their much larger, more complex needs. The internet has just blown the doors open in terms of transparency and efficiency in B2B.
It really has. It allows businesses to find the right partners, the right solutions, far faster and often with more data than ever before.
Well, we have definitely peeled back some layers today. We've looked at the different types of business markets: producers, resellers, government, institutional.
Right, and how companies use systems like NAICS to actually find and classify potential customers within those markets.
And we dove into what makes B2B transactions unique: the scale, the concerns like price, quality, service, ethics.
The different ways they buy: description, inspection, sampling, negotiation, and the purchase types like new task, straight rebuy, modified rebuy.
Plus those unique demand characteristics derived: inelastic, joint, and fluctuating demand.
Then we unpack the buying center, all those roles like users, influencers, buyers, deciders, gatekeepers.
and the stages they go through, from recognizing a problem to evaluating performance.
And how all of that is influenced by the environment, the organization, interpersonal dynamics, individual factors.
And, of course, increasingly by technology and the internet.
It really shows how this often unseen world of B2B transactions underpins so much of our economy.
Yeah, it drives so much of what we experience every day.
And stepping back, the bigger picture is that even purchases that might seem kind of mundane on the surface, ordering more supplies, choosing a new software, they're all driven by these really complex strategic decisions.
Highlights that incredible interconnectedness, doesn't it? So here's a final thought for you listening. The next time you use any product, any service, take a second to think beyond just its journey to you. Consider that invisible web, that hidden supply chain of business-to-business deals and decisions that had to happen first. What might you discover about how your everyday life is actually enabled?
Makes you think, doesn't it?